I found out in 2023, about October, that I was going to have my lower left leg amputated. When I found that out, this is how my twisted mind thinks. Okay, I don't like this, but it's going to happen. There's nothing I can do about it. So how can I monetize it?
This is A Joyful Rebellion, the podcast that explores that moment you realize the life and success you worked so hard to create didn't come with all the fulfillment you thought it would. I'm your host, James Walters, and I want you to be the author of your own story. Each week, I connect with people who inspire bold answers to the question, what do I do now to create a life I love? If you're ready to start answering that question for yourself, you're in the right place. So let's start a joyful rebellion. You know, a lot of people think they need a new idea to make more money. But what if they're just overlooking what's already there? Bart Merrell is my guest today, and he helps people create financial security by monetizing what they already know, already do, and often completely ignore. From building a DJ business at 15 to working internationally and turning everyday skills into income streams, Bart's built his life around one simple question: can this be monetized? We talk about why money really means options, how to spot opportunities hiding in plain sight, and the mindset shift that turns side hustles into something much bigger. So if you've ever felt like you should be doing more but don't know where to start, this conversation will get your gears turning. Bart Merrell, thank you so much for being here on A Joyful Rebellion today.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
I am excited to have you here because I have found something interesting in my own life. I never really used to talk about money. I never liked, money was a personal situation. That's just sort of my mindset until recently, where I changed my mindset about money, and I just really think about it as energy. It's a different form of energy, and the more of it you have, the more you can do. Now, people with good intentions are going to be doing good things with it. People with bad intentions, that the whole cycle of the world and how it works, it's just another form of leverage. And you are known as the side hustle samurai. And the thing I think is going to be really interesting about this conversation is it is a rebellion to have a side hustle. Now, side hustles are things that, sometimes people roll their eyes at and they're like, oh, okay, no, I'm not going to go DoorDash or anything like that. I'm busy. But that's not what you're about. You help people discover what's already inside them and how they might monetize that.
Yeah, what they're overlooking. And so let's touch on money real quick before we get into what I do.
Yeah.
They say money isn't everything, or is it when you don't have enough? Money gives you options, and
Yeah.
it isn't everything. Steve Jobs, all the money that you could ever want, it didn't save him from cancer, but it gave him options. And so one of the things that I want to share with people is, so my wife, she's Japanese, and she often goes home to visit her family, and while she's there, she gets her health checks done. And several years ago, it's probably early 2010, 12, somewhere around that time, she called me from Nagoya, Japan, and she calmly informed me that the initial test indicated cancer. And obviously, my first thought was, I could lose my wife. My second thought, sadly, was we can't afford this. I can't afford to drop everything and be by her side as she goes through whatever it is she's going to have to go through. Now, lucky for us, after 8 sleepless nights, the biopsy came back negative, and she only had to have an operation. But it was a wake-up call for me that, okay, I need to do more. I need to pay attention to the opportunities and take advantage of those opportunities so that money really isn't everything, so that I have the options. And that's what I want people to think about. Get prepared for, I say, what happens when what happens happens. Are you prepared? Get prepared before life happens. Because when life is happening, you're flustered and you can't think straight. So if you get prepared, whether it's cancer or Christmas, I did a post the other day on Facebook about the envelope that nobody's talking about. The one that came in the mail last month with the Visa
Oh
bills,
yeah. Yeah,
paying
that's
off
right.
Christmas. And was your Visa bill a little bit heavier than you expected? Mine was.
Yeah.
But so
Well,
I talk about it, not just the bad things to be prepared for, but the good things. Christmas, your daughter comes home and says, "Hey, Dad, I just got engaged.
yeah.
Surprise, you get to pay for a wedding." Were you prepared?
Yeah.
So that's what I help people create financial security by monetizing the things you already know and do.
Which I love about it because it is individualized. It is not a, hey, I've got this thing you can plug yourself into and you're going to be rich, replace your income and all this. It's not a huge, impossible sounding thing. It is a simple message. Hey, you've got things hidden inside of you and you need to let them out. And if you do, you could have more options. So yeah, take it away. And I want to hear this. I want to hear this story about chasing serial killers with the FBI. It was a dream of yours.
So my dream job growing up from probably about 16, I watched this movie called Manhunter. It is the prequel, or it is the original Silence of the Lambs or
Oh,
Hannibal.
okay.
And so it was a remake when it went to Silence of the Lambs, I believe. But man, it just the chase, the cat and mouse, and having to get into the serial killer's mind to catch him, and oh man, I loved it. And so that was my dream job. That was my goal, was to get in the FBI and chase serial killers. We had a family friend who was ex-FBI, and he said the easiest way into the FBI was through accounting. Once you get in, though, you can apply to the other positions as they come open, and you go wherever you're good at it. And so I'm like, okay. And
Okay.
with his advice and my dad's nudging, I said, okay, I'll study accounting instead of psychology, which is what I probably wanted.
Yeah.
And I studied accounting. I found out two things. I'm not good at it, and I didn't really like it. And I took time off right before my last semester or last quarter, whatever your school does. We did quarters. I took time, went home and helped my dad on the pig farm in southern New Mexico to improve my Spanish. And while I was down there, everybody was getting, I shouldn't say everybody, but friends of mine who were in customs and border patrol and cops were getting this RK surgery done on their eyes to correct their vision
Yeah.
before LASIK. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I want it. And it was still experimental, but I was like, I'm down here in Podunk, New Mexico. I'm making money, no place to spend it. Let's go spend that money. $1,500 an eye. I got it done. 2020 in one eye, 2015 or 2025 in the other eye. Great for a long period of time until I was about 52 and I had to get glasses again. But I went back up to school, started the application process into the FBI, and I found out that automatically disqualified me from the FBI.
Okay. Ouch.
And I was devastated. What am I going to
Yeah.
do? I
Can't take
don't
it
I
back.
I don't
Yeah.
like accounting. I don't want to count other people's money. I pay someone a good amount of money to take care of my taxes every year and my books and all that stuff. I don't want to touch it. So what do I do? And I fell back on what my dad taught me by example. He was a pig farmer from southern New Mexico, but he wasn't just a pig farmer. He had his hands in many different things, usually in the agricultural industry. Part owner in a dairy up in Idaho, part owner in a mushroom warehouse in Utah, part owner in a produce warehouse in Arizona. In fact, it used to be where Diamondback Stadium now stands. And so when they wanted to build that thing, there was a good amount of money that changed hands that my dad was a part of for them to get that space. And so he didn't ever sit me down and teach me about the birds and the bees of business. He just showed me by example. And when I wanted to do things as a kid, he was always there to encourage me. And so if you didn't grow up with my dad or someone like my dad, you don't think like I do. And so that's what I'm here. I'm here to show people how to think the way I do. And what that is anything that crosses my path, good, bad, or ugly, I always ask, can I monetize it? I don't monetize everything, but I always ask the question. And that's how I've lived my life since my dream serial killer chasing job got blown up. I've just done things that cross my path. Some of them I like, some of them I have to do, some of them I was already doing, and I just chose to take that next step and monetize those things.
When you decided to go down that route, what were the first couple of things you stumbled onto?
So my very first side hustle was in high school. I bought my first stereo. I love music. I love listening to music, and I bought my first stereo at age 11. I worked all summer on the pig farm to pay my $285 for a Sanyo all-in-one system. You
Yeah,
had
those
the
big
cassette
stacks. Yeah.
deck, the set deck right here, the tuner in the middle, and what was on this side? Can you guess?
It was had to be the turntable, right?
Turntables on top.
Oh, turntables on top. Okay. Oh, dude, was it a CD player?
It, Before that, it was an 8-track player.
Yeah. I had a 8-track. Telling you.
If you're listening and you don't know what that is, go look it up.
Yeah.
It's
If you're
ancient.
listening and don't know what that is, you're probably on the wrong show because it's a lot. Most people listening kind of look like me. They're a little wizened, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I do. I bought that and it was amazing. I loved it, man. I'd go in the room and I would crank it up. My parents probably hated that they let me buy it. But the thing is, I just realized I bought a liability because every time we'd go into town, I'd have to buy the new tunes. And you remember back then, we had to buy the crap with the 2 songs that we liked.
Yeah.
And that was, for an 11-year-old kid, that was pretty expensive. When I turned 15 and got my driver's license, I turned that into a mobile disco business called, wait for it, Illusion.
Illusion. I can see the whole, yeah.
I had a 3D banner printed with like white, gray, and darker gray with the black light against it that made it, I was cool. At least I thought I was. But here's what I did. I was 15. I didn't have anybody hiring me in Podunk, New Mexico. And so I rented the community center. I hired an off-duty cop for security. Mom and Dad took money at the door. I spun records. Everybody had an amazing time. I made $500 to $700 a night doing something that I loved.
That's awesome.
After football games, after basketball games on the weekend, if there's nothing on the weekend and nobody had anything to do, I was at the community center spinning records, and that's where everybody was.
All right.
As a 15-year-old kid.
Already an event promoter at 15.
With my dad's support. He just supported me in anything that I did. So that was the first one. When my dream got blown up, I was up at school. I was doing landscaping for $5 an hour as my part-time job at school. And a buddy of mine who worked for a bungee jump company said, hey, do you want to go back to Japan? I'd spent a couple years in Japan and I spoke Japanese fairly good. And he says, we just sold a bungee jump to Japan. We need someone to be a translator and interpreter, help train the staff, help build the things. Are you interested? And he was kind of joking because he didn't think I would be. And I was just kind of, I thought about it just a second. And I seriously said, yeah, I'm interested. I'd never bungee jumped before, but I did do the extreme stuff. I was an adrenaline junkie. I loved that type of stuff. And so I went and learned how to bungee jump, and I was off to Japan. 3 months later, I was pushing little Japanese people off the top of an 8-story tower.
Whoa.
And
right.
I wasn't hired by the American company. I wasn't hired by the Japanese company. I contracted with the Japanese company to be the in-between. They liked me, and from 1994 to 2000, I spent half my life in Japan. And, let's do some joyful rebellion here.
Yeah.
Don't tell anybody, but I was an illegal in Japan.
Oh, that's right. That's a lot of years.
And so, I mean, I would go back and forth. It was a side hustle to where I would come home. I didn't need to work, but I would do stuff just to keep me busy.
Mm-hmm.
and then I would go back to Japan. And I was kind of a carny, I guess.
So after 15, and then you moved to bungee jumping. What were you just going with the flow, like the next opportunity? Were you ever at a party with someone and they were describing their job and whatever they do, and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how you're not in the loony bin right now because that would bore you to death.
So I've had people, including family, say, why don't you just get a real job?
I love that, the real job.
And I'm just like, I don't know that I could do it. You have to work with people you may not like. At Christmas time, I get a little lonely because if I want to go to a Christmas party, I got to throw my own. But here's the key. If I'm throwing my own, guess who's there? People I want to be with, not people I have to be with. So there's a lot about that I've just never really think about it. It just kind of happens. So if you look back, sometimes people tell me I'm lucky. Well, what is luck? Seneca says luck is when opportunity and preparedness meet. And I add one more thing. You got to take action. If opportunity and preparedness meet and you don't take action, nothing happens. So I'm in Japan doing the bungee jump thing. I'm going to a gym at night because I don't have any friends and I'm kind of bored. So I go to this gym. And I'm 6'4" at that time, 220, pretty good sized guy. And I'm in this gym and everybody's afraid of me because I'm huge.
In Japan, yeah. You are the Hulk.
And nobody talks to me. They don't know if I speak Japanese. And I was there about 2 weeks and this guy comes up to me and he goes, "Hello." And I said, "Hello." And then I started speaking Japanese to him. He's like, "Phew. I'm glad you speak Japanese because I was done at hello." Anyway, we became friends about a year and a half after that. And he's a big rig driver in Japan, man. Talk about amazing drivers. In Japan, the roads are so small and they got these big rigs. They can back into anything. Anyway, that's a side note. But he says, I want to quit driving truck and start importing camping trailers and Dodge and Ford diesel pickups to Japan. Will you help me? Now, I thought he knew how to do it. So I said, yeah, I'll help you. Thought it was going to be easy. He didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to do it. But we've been doing it since 1997. I still do it to this day as a side hustle.
Oh.
Okay. And sometimes that side hustle makes me very good money. And it's like this, but man, sometimes it's amazing money. So I didn't know how to do it, but I said yes. Richard Branson, Virgin Records guy, Virgin Airlines, he has a quote out there that says, if someone comes to you with an amazing opportunity and you don't know how to do it, say yes and learn how to do it later as you go. I interviewed a lady for my book. So there is a company, I don't know, you may not know about it because I didn't know about it until someone mentioned it to me. It's called Jamberry. Jamberry started out as nail wraps. Do it at home nail wraps. And the two founders, they used to go to the salons and get this done. It was $60, $70 a pop. And they were walking out of the salon one time. And one of them said to the other, I wonder if we could do this at home for cheaper.
Like they did in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. I don't know. But yeah, I hear you.
So they started doing their research and they made some prototypes. They went to home shows. They came home with orders, went to mom and dad's garage. They start fulfilling these orders in the garage. They go to another home show, do the same thing. Pretty soon they figure out they have something. So they decide, okay, we need to put some structure behind it. That was in 2010 when it started. 2015, they sold 50% of the company for a multi-million-dollar deal. The company was doing almost $750 million. And they wanted to start this as just a thing for a family to do, to have fun, to get together and make a little money on the side. Turned into $1 million deal. I asked her, what advice would you have for someone wanting to start a side hustle? And her answer was similar to Richard Branson's quote. She says, even if you don't know all the ins and outs of the business, start and learn as you go. So you have to take that action. Opportunity and preparedness meet, you have to take action. So in the gym, opportunity, preparedness met, I did it. Okay. And that just kind of happens all the way around. You need to make 3 lists. What do you like to do? What do you need to do? And what are you already doing? Can you monetize 1, 2, or 3 of those things? And I take them through a process and gets them thinking because it's what I've done. I do it naturally. I have to help jumpstart people where they start thinking that way.
Earlier, we were talking about you being at a party and talking to someone with a quote day job, the typical 9 to 5, and no shade on that because everybody you help has a main gig and you help them get the side gig, right? Or unless they're just a serial, side gig person. But I want to talk about something you just mentioned, lit up something inside my brain because I am in the creative business. I've been a photographer for a really long time. And I know that a lot of people, photography is a lot of people's side gig because they grew up and they got a camera and then they want to take some pictures and then they're like, oh, this is really fun. This is really cool. I can connect with people. And then they decide to cross that line into monetizing it. In conversations I've had with people in that specific space, it lasts for a couple of years before they get burnt out. And they're like, yeah, I used to have fun doing this, but when I started doing it to make money, it didn't feel as fun after a while because I mean, some things are like an actual job, and that's a job where there's a lot of demand for attention from your clients and things like that. So, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about when you've seen people pick something they are good at and they do enjoy, and then they realize, oh, man, I just need to keep this a hobby because I'll enjoy it a lot more if I do.
So I have 2 examples on that from my personal life.
Okay.
Out of college, one of the things that I did as a side hustle was I started a snowmobile rental business. Now I love to snowmobile, but like I said, I'm an adrenaline junkie. You're not going to see me in the mountains just cruising around looking. I got to be doing something that's going to get me hurt. Climbing, jumping, doing all these things. So I like the exciting part of snowmobiling. We would pull the sleds up to the top of the mountain for the people and they would rent from the top of the mountain. And so I'm still there where they've rented the machines from. And they go out and they get stuck. And I spent all my days getting people unstuck because you have stupid people in this world. I don't know why, but we do have that. And I don't snowmobile anymore. That was one of the ventures that failed. I lost, I don't know, $15,000-$20,000 in that venture, and we did it for probably 5 years. So a side hustle that didn't do good, and it also, I don't go do it anymore. Okay. Now on the other side, one of the things I do right now, it's a pretty big part of my income stream, is dog training. I'm a dog trainer not because I wanted to be a dog trainer. However, I've had a dog since I was a little kid. And I love dogs. I love animals. And I adopted this Rottweiler. He's right here. And when we adopted it, he was 8 months old, 90 pounds, and he didn't know the word no. And I kept calling my buddy Sean. I say, Sean, Rex is doing this. What do I do? Rex is doing this. What do I do? About the 3rd or 4th time I called him and said, Rex is doing this. What do I do? He said, Bart, we're doing a train the trainer program. Why don't you come learn how to train your own dog? So that's what I did. I went to his train the trainer program, but I asked him, I said, Sean, I love dogs. I love animals. Am I going to hate animals? Am I going to get burned out? And he says, no, you're going to still love the animals, but you're going to hate the owners.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it is. We love, so we do a 24-day board and train where the dogs come in and stay with me for 24 days. Right now I have 4 client dogs, and I love every one next to the owners probably. I love the dog. I love their dogs as much as the owners, or maybe pretty close to it. and I still enjoy it. Been doing it for 7, 8 years now. But he's right. I do get irritated with the owners because they don't do what they're supposed to do when they get the dogs back.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things you're not going to figure out before you start. But it is something, it is a concern because I was worried about it with the dogs. I do love dogs, and we hate to see dogs. Most of the dogs go home. Some dogs we're happy to see them go home, but most of the dogs were like, "Oh, well, we'll see you sometime, maybe." But they go and they live their life. So you can talk about the burnout or whatever part about it is, but sometimes we say, okay, I wish I was Musk or I wish I was Bezos or whatever billionaire you like. And I say, really? Are you willing to do what it is that they did to get there? Meaning Mark Cuban slept on how many friends' sofas until he made it, even after he made it a while. Musk stays in the office. He never goes home. And so you have all these things that they're having to do. So as you're evaluating your side hustles, you need to look at, okay, here's the resources it's going to take to get this payout. Is it worth it? Are you willing to do that to get this? Because you're going to have to give up time, money, effort, whatever it is, dealing with the public. Where you have it with where it's dealing with cameras and photography, you got a lot of that going on. And so are you willing to do those things in order to get this? Is it worth it to you? And so that's things you have to do whenever you're in the research phase. So going to Japan, there is a restaurant that I love. It's called Koko Ichiban Curry. It's a Japanese curry place. My wife calls it a hole in the wall, but man, I love it. It is, and it's a chain restaurant. And if you go to the ones by the military bases on a Friday or Saturday night, you think you're in America because it's all gringos there in the room. And so I thought, okay, this is going to be a hit in America. I need to bring this restaurant to America and start making money off of my love of curry. And I had a friend in Japan that would back me monetarily. He said, okay, I got this money. I will give it to you. If you make money with it, we split it. If you don't worry about it. I actually had to go to some of my other friends and say, did I understand this correctly? That I don't worry about it? And they're like, that's
right.
That's what he said. I got back to the US and I started doing the pre-work, doing the research and figuring out what resources am I going to have to give up. And as I got going, the reality hit that I don't want to work that hard. And so I didn't take the money. I said, no, I'm not going to do it. It wouldn't be fair to you. It wouldn't be fair to me because my heart wouldn't be in it. I love to eat the stuff. I just don't want to oversee it being made and distributed every day. I don't want to create myself a job that may or may not be high paying. And so I turned that down because the resources that it was going to take wasn't what I didn't want to give it. I didn't know what I was going to get necessarily, but I didn't want to put in that much effort to get whatever this was going to be. And it was still kind of an unknown. However, in Japan, those restaurants were profitable within their first year. So there was a high probability of success. I didn't want to do it. And so that's what you have to do when you're evaluating these things. You can't just jump in. You have to take action, but you have to do the research. You have to do the homework before you jump.
I'd love to segue into once you do make the jump, let's say you've got your steady job. It's predictable. It's got the benefits, it's got all the good stuff. And you've started a side hustle and you're excited about it. You got all the energy going. And then you get into those social situations where people are like, oh, what do you do? That's the first thing people always want to know. It's so bizarre. I don't know. I'm not a social person, so I think it's bizarre. But I talk a lot on this show about identity. And I'm wondering if someone like yourself who has a lot of different things, I'm one of those people. I've got a lot of different things going on. If you saw my calendar, oh my gosh, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm teaching a documentary filmmaking class to photojournalism students. On Mondays and Wednesdays, I am working on my photography production just to keep the lights on and keep clients happy, all that stuff. And on Wednesday, part of Wednesdays, I'm podcasting because that's what we're doing right now. So when someone's like, so what do you do? I was like, I don't have a friggin' clue what I did. What day is it? Is like, what time is it today? Then I can tell you what I'm doing. But in any given week, I could be doing 10 different things. So how do you answer that question when you've got so many things going on and you've evolved past having your identity wrapped up in them? How do you respond to people in those situations?
So I guess if someone were to ask me what I do, I respond with, I help people create financial security by monetizing what they already know and do. If I'm in Home Depot training dogs, someone asks me are you a dog trainer? I'm like, yeah, I'm a dog trainer. I teach dogs how to do what they're supposed to do. The biggest thing that's funny for me is when someone comes up, how's business? It's like, which one?
Right. Yeah.
But when it comes to identity, it's what you want to be at that time. So you're in the artistic industry, correct?
Mm-hmm.
If we want to call it that. So last night, my alter ego finished up an album, a music album that I'm going to put on Spotify.
Nice.
And it's going to be my alter ego. His name's Mason Kane. That's something that I'm going to identify or not identify as. But it's one thing that I do, and Mason Kane's going to get all the accolades if done properly.
Yeah. Okay.
And so what do? I do many things. What do you want me to talk about first? As you can see, I like to talk.
Yeah. Well, that's when I'm on a podcast, I frequently am a guest on podcasts, and I love to talk about creativity, and I love to talk about the creative process, not just visual arts, but I've written a couple of books. So when sometimes the podcast host has done their homework and they know some things about me and they're like, oh, he's a podcast host, author, photographer, and I'm like, oh boy, it makes me sound like I can't commit to anything. Do you have people who come to you and they're worried like, oh, I'm worried, I really want to do this thing, but oh my gosh, what are people going to think, or what are people going to say? What's the anxiety level like with a lot of your clients?
You know the phrase that's out there, right?
What's it one?
Jack of all trades.
Yeah.
Master of none. Do you know the full quotation?
I don't.
So we use it like I need to focus on one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the full quotation. Jack of all trades, master of none, though oftentimes better than the master of one.
Mm.
It's meant for a totally opposite than we use it for.
It's very Renaissance man kind of a quote.
So when it comes to what people think, I don't care. I mean, I do, but I can't let it get in my head to where I don't do anything. But I do have people that come to me with that problem. And I told you earlier that one of the things I'm doing this year is I'm doing Identify Your Ideal Side Hustle workshops to find clients and to help people start to think like I do. And whenever I go to do these things, I will get clients that have the issue you're talking about that don't want to put themselves out there. And in the thing of my workshop, like in the sales page of my workshop, it says, this is a no fluff workshop. If you need to get in touch with your feelings, this workshop is not for you. So I have a hard time dealing with that other than that I understand it. A lot of times it's easier when you have a mentor there to hold your hand and help you when someone is, firing darts at you or whatever you want to call it. A friend of mine, he does AI workshops, and he had some ads running on Facebook about a workshop that he was doing, and he had like probably 14, 15 comments, of which 12 of those were negative about hating AI. Well, I'm sorry, AI is here. AI is not going away. You better learn all you can about it or you're going to be left behind or get duped by it or whatever. But all the negative things, he didn't take his ad down. He's still running the ads. If you're not getting darts shot at you, then you're doing nothing. Not everybody's going to like what you have to do. They're not going to like every photo you take. They're not going to like every song I create. They're not going to like every book. You're not going to do that, especially in this world that we're in right now. And you're going to put yourself out there on social media and someone's going to say something. And you just got to acknowledge it and move on. So I don't know if you know this about me. I don't know how much research you did about me. But one of my side hustles is I found out in 2023, about October, that I was going to have my lower left leg amputated. When I found that out, this is how my twisted mind thinks. Okay, I don't like this, but it's going to happen. There's nothing I can do about it. So how can I monetize it? I got it. I got my leg chopped off March 25th of 2024. 6 months post-op, I contracted with my prosthetist, the guy that makes my leg, to help me to help people who are going to go through what I had to go through. And if I hadn't have been thinking about it before, when the opportunity happened, I wouldn't have done anything. So we're sitting in an appointment, and I say, Scott, I interviewed 3 other prosthetists before I decided on you. One of them had a guy that I could talk to get my questions answered, to ask how much is it going to hurt, because this is a guy that had the guy actually had his whole left leg amputated. And so I could talk to someone and ask about how bad is it going to hurt, how long is it going to take me to get back on my feet or my foot, I guess, now that it's, I only have one. Little amputee humor. Or am I going to have phantom pain? What does that feel like? What can I do about it? All the questions I went down the YouTube rabbit hole like you can't believe, trying to answer questions. So now I help other people do that because I saw someone else doing it, and my prosthetist didn't have a guy, and I said, Scott, you don't have a guy. I'm your guy. And we negotiated, and I said, Scott, I don't want a job. I don't want to come in the office. I want to be a contractor. I'm on retainer. You send me the numbers. I talk to people. I go to the hospitals, visit with them. I do whatever it is they need me to do, but you're covering the fee. And so that's what we do. And so I have monetized my amputation. And so here we are, the Side Hustle Samurai.
Yeah.
This is tax deductible.
Genius.
And so that's how my brain thinks. And that's the things that I do. And I help people do the same. A friend of mine, she's a bus driver, a school bus driver. She came to me. She already had her idea. I said, okay, Stephanie, I know you have your idea, but just humor me. Let's go through the process. And so I took her through the process. She's making her list of what she likes to do, what she needs to do, what she's already doing. And I said, okay, continue building these lists. We'll meet next week. A couple of days later, I get a call. Bart, I'm so mad at you. Why? I woke up at 3 o'clock yesterday morning. I couldn't go back to sleep. You know I have to be on the bus at 6. I'm like, well, what did I do? Well, I just realized, so she wanted to do a party bus. So buy a limousine bus and drive people to their different locations, jazz games, hockey games, whatever. And she says, I just realized that if I had my own bus, my own vehicle, I could do the driver's test for the people who are trying to get their CDL.
Oh.
She just needed to go take a test, cost her about $400 to get qualified. And then she didn't even have to advertise because you go in and take the written test at the DMV. They hand you a paper, a sheet with a list of all the people who can give the driver's test.
Okay.
And she makes $250 a pop. And so she's like, I couldn't go back to sleep. I was just thinking of all the things I need to do to get this started. And I didn't think of this for her.
Yeah.
I
How
don't.
could you know?
Yeah,
How would you
I
know?
don't
Yeah.
think of those things. I just get the gears moving, and they think of the stuff themselves. And I tell you, you can be talking to someone like you and I are talking on via Zoom, and I'm asking them questions about their lists. And when they can explain whatever this side hustle is going to be to where I can understand it, and then you can almost see a change in their countenance, because the reason they can explain it to me is because they're a little bit more excited. They're a little bit more up in their seat, and they're talking like I'm talking to you right now. They're excited, and they can explain it to where I can understand. I'm like, okay, that's one thing that we might want to take a look at and put at the top of your list, as they're telling me the different things that they're talking about. But I don't think up the things. I don't come in with an agenda, like I said, not to join my network marketing company or sell my stuff. I don't want you to sell my products. I want to go through your life and find your unique experiences that we can monetize.
That's the biggest rebellion of all, is just to be able to do your own thing, go to the beat of your own drummer and be happy doing it. And I want to shift things over to mindset, because you've written a book. It's called Monetize Your Mindset. We talk so much about mindset on this show with so many of my guests in very different ways. But I would love to hear some of the biggest mindsets. I'm guessing some of the top 2 mindsets when you get people coming to you and it's like, Bart, I've got this idea. It would be so cool. And then they start throwing out excuses. I've been this person, so I know this person. I live with this person. I am this person sometimes, but I've got this cool idea. And then there's something in me that knows I can do it. It's not a self-trust thing, which would be one of my top 2 things, but it's man, I just feel weird asking people to pay for it. It doesn't seem like it would be worth all that much. So it's kind of a worthiness thing. What do you do with people like that who start throwing out the excuses, and you have to remind them, no, this is actually valuable and you would help people and you deserve to get paid for it?
So I had one client, and he wanted to teach chess, to play chess, but he wanted to do it mainly for teenagers. And the purpose behind it is to help them get prepared for the experiences that life is going to throw out at you. And I was kind of on the side of, well, I don't know about that. But then he started bringing me stuff to where, like I said, he could explain it to where I could understand it and I could get excited about it. He showed me the chapters to his book, the titles.
Cool.
And I'm just like, wow, I need to read this. This is going to be good for me. And then I read the first 4 chapters of his book, and I'm like, dang, I need to go. I went and created a chess.com account to start playing chess again. But he oftentimes has his doubts. He's one of those that doesn't want to put it out there on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't want to put it out there. He's just like, can I just do it on a different page? I'm like, no. You need to take credit for this. You need to get confidence behind this. I said, do you remember how I came in and how I was not against this, but I was like, okay, let's see what else you got. And then you remember how you showed me the chapters of your book and how I was excited, and all of a sudden I'm your number 1 fan. So I try and remind people their successes. What have they done that is successes? So I'm not immune to what you're talking about, because I get that way sometimes. When was it? It was before the end of the year, and I have a mentor. So one thing you can do is you get a mentor, someone that's going to hold your hand. And I had a mentor, and I shared with her that I was having doubts about some of the stuff I offered. And she's like, well, why did you get this? And it was because someone said something, and I was just like, wow, why would they say that? And so I'm not immune. But then having that mentor talk me off the ledge, if you want to call it that, was so helpful. And so having someone that can hold your hand is so great. So another side note, I don't know if you want to call it that. So example, I grew up having a horse. I don't remember not having a horse. And I was about 7 years old, and I went to my dad and I said, Dad, when is George going to be my horse? George is the horse I rode. And he's like, what do you mean? George is your horse. I'm like, no, George is Randy's horse, my brother's horse that my brother team roped, and George would, when you threw the rope, George would throw his head up and it would get caught in the rope a lot of the time. So George became my horse because he wasn't the horse for my brother. I said, Dad, no, George isn't really my horse. When is he going to be my horse? And my dad thought a second. He said, okay, well, when you can put the saddle on yourself. And we're not talking a little English saddle. We're talking a Western saddle for adults. And I'm excited. I'm 7 years old. I went out and George is tied to the back pole. I grabbed a chair from the kitchen table. I set it by George. I dragged this big saddle up to the next side of George. I got up on the chair and I picked it up just enough to hit his side and push him to where he stepped away. And I fell flat on my face. I mean, this was what I did every Saturday morning after cartoons. That's what I did. George was tied. I was doing it. Couldn't do it. Finally, at 12 years old, I did it. And George became my horse. Just in time to sell him and get me a roping horse. We got Buck. But why did I stick with that? Well, let me go to another story. Several years ago, early 2000s, I thought I was going to be a poker player. And I was going to make money playing poker. Back then, you could play poker online for real money, and I played poker 6-8 hours a day. And about 6 months, 8 months in, I kind of did the math. I think I had $500 and something still in my account. I was positive, but I did the math on how much I was making per hour. And it came out to like 29 cents an hour. I'm just like, okay, this isn't going to work. And I put it on the back burner. I wanted to play in the World Series of Poker. I wanted to do all this stuff. And it just went back. Now, why did I do 5 years of putting this saddle up on George and having him let me land on my face or on my butt? And I just did 6 or 8 months of poker. And I studied poker better than I studied accounting in college. I had the books. It's the poker Bible. It's like this thick. And I had all these different books, learned statistics of when to bet, when to fall. I learned all this stuff. And 6 months I was done. 5 years, and I finally succeeded with George. Why? Because when I didn't succeed with George, I'd go get my brother, I'd go get my dad. They would do it. I knew that if I did what they did, I would learn, grow, get stronger, and I would be able to do it. I did poker on my own. I didn't have a coach. I did books. That's all I did. Now, the outcome could probably be the same. I could have a poker coach and he's like, dude, you better give it up. You suck. It could have been the same, or I could have gotten better and done better and continued longer. So mentors are important. If you find someone who has done what it is you want to do, and you get them for help, it is going to help you with your mental issues that might come up. Issues, that kind of sounds bad. Mental, what do we want to call this? Your mindset.
Yeah, let's call it that. I like it.
And so my book, Monetize Your Mindset, isn't a what to do book. It's a how to think book. And I share examples of a lot of what we've talked about today, but others of people that are not me, that from, they had a a beehive in their backyard because they like to keep bees as a hobby, and then they monetized it that brings in an extra $25,000-$30,000 a year off of something that they were doing for fun. Let's remember the three things. What do you like to do? What do you need to do? And what are you already doing? Okay, we covered what do you like to do? Music from me, and it can be any. It doesn't have to be music. What do you need to do? I needed to take care of my leg, and I learned how to take care of my leg. I went through it. I can help people do that. Okay. What are you already doing? I got into an Uber. It's been a few years back, and my driver was Megan. And I said, Megan, how's Uber treating you today? She smiled and says, oh, I just do this to and from work. She was a nurse up at U of U Hospital in Salt Lake City. She lived about an hour away south, and she would pick someone up on her way to work, pick someone up on her way from work, and she would Uber home. Now, it did two things for her. One, it made her an extra $60, $70 a day. Two, if it was in rush hour, she could use the HOV lane and get there faster. I'm just like, Megan, that is brilliant. Do you mind if I use your story? She's like, no, go ahead. Off of something she's already doing. And so monetize your mindset is about learning how to identify the opportunities that are right in front of your face that you may be too close to so that you can't see.
That's a great example because yeah, something she was already doing and she could get creative and figure out, okay, how do I make this work for me and help other people out and also, enhance her life. I would love to talk about the counter example of people who came to you, they wanted to work with you, and they just, for whatever reason, couldn't get over themselves, couldn't get over their imposter syndrome, couldn't get over their whatever it was they couldn't get over with their mindset, and they just kind of faded back into their normal, comfortable routine. Do you have any example, maybe not in the book, but examples that you can share?
So people, their biggest enemy is in their own head. You get these things shot at you and all that. They think that a lot of it has to do with something happens, whether it's from external or whether it's from internal, and they say, okay, I can't do this, and they give up. Biggest example I have now, I didn't go back to the day job, but the biggest example is my poker dream. It wasn't a big enough dream. So a lot of people, they talk about, and I hate some of these quotations where they talk about, well, your dream wasn't big enough. Well, sometimes it doesn't need to be big enough. It needs to be easy enough. You get that first success, then you can go back to the bigger. And so that's one of the things I try and do with people so that I don't have the failure issue. But you are going to have failure. So with me, if someone comes to me and decides to take my one-on-one coaching, I have a guarantee that if I don't get you cash flowing, by the time we're done, I continue to work with you for free until we get it done. So I don't want people to go back to that. So I believe that you don't need a job. Nobody needs to need a job. If you want a job and you love your job, that's great. But also for you that love your job, if you don't have a side hustle or a side business, you're paying way too much in taxes because of the tax advantages that you could take advantage of. Now, I'm not a tax professional. I did graduate in accounting, though. We did do that. But I pay someone a lot of money to do my taxes, so I'm not a tax professional. Talk to your tax professional before you take tax advice. I'm just saying there is deductions to be had if you are self-employed or you have a side hustle. And so I don't want people to go back to just the job thing unless that's what they want. And the people that give up, they don't have the proper mindset. And I'm not like I say, if you in my sales page, it says if you need to get in touch with your feelings, my workshop is not the workshop for you. We're not going to be doing that. We're going to be rolling up sleeves and making lists and doing research. But I have the same issues that everybody else does. I just deal with them differently. When I was going through my amputation, I had people that would come up to me and, how are you taking this so well? How are you doing that? And I didn't have an answer. But you know what? I kind of do. I've dealt with disappointments and things in life, little by little throughout life, my job blowing up, you know. I don't talk about this much, but I grew up with the name Bart. So let's go back to grade school, Bart the Fart. Go to high school. It got worse, stuff that I can't even say on here. But I dealt with it in, well, if you're big enough to tease me, you better be big enough to fight me. And I defended myself. But little at a time. And then as I got older, I listened to good stuff. I put good stuff in my head. Listen to positive reinforcements and worked on myself. And so for those that don't have that now, the best time to start doing that would have been 20 years ago. But just like they say about the tree, planting the tree 20 years ago is the best time. Well, no better time than today to start planting that tree and start listening to good people. Your podcast. I'm a big fan of Gary Vee and how he teaches, and you have so many out there that you could get good information from and build that mindset. You just need to start doing it, and you need to make it a habit of doing it daily. And that's going to help you get there. And this isn't something I teach, but it's something that if something comes up, like the guy with the chess idea, I told him, I said, you need to go listen to some Gary Vee. And I gave him a book, Gary Vee's Day Trading Secrets or something like that. An amazing book on how to put yourself out there and be willing to put yourself out there, and how he gives great examples. So if you haven't started now, then it's time to start putting good stuff in your head to get your mindset right.
That's great. That's a really cool.
That was kind of a long way around to get to your answer, but I got there.
I understand, because it's just like with food. You are what you eat. You mentally, you are what you think, and what you think has a lot to do with what you consume.
Yeah, and when we go back, so the biggest example I have is how I dealt with my amputation. And people would ask me, and I didn't really know, but it's because I learned to deal with things as they came up. I'm not a boy where we had participation trophies. Yeah. We had to work through things and get things. And I don't know if you're familiar with the song "A Boy Named Sue."
Yeah, Johnny Cash.
It's real.
Yeah.
It's real, because having, and trust me, I asked my mom once, I says, Mom, what the hell were you and Dad thinking when you named me Bart? What do you mean you're named after a great man? I was like, do you realize what I had to go through as a kid? But it made me better. And I'm not advocating for bullying. I'm just saying having to go through that gave me the fortitude, the mental fortitude to deal with things when they come out, whether it's getting my leg cut off or a business failing, like my snowmobile business. And you have to be willing to do that. And then also, Gary Vaynerchuk says, I would rather only hit 7 out of 10 wins than hit 10 out of 10. Because the lesson learned from the 3 misses are as important as the wins. So from your failures, you're going to learn stuff. And you're going to reassess, reevaluate, start again, and try again. And so don't discount the failures that are out there. If you failed and then you took a break and started again, that needs to be done. Just don't give up.
And always be moving toward creating more options for yourself. Yeah. That's a great way to end things. I'm on your website right now. It is bartmerrell.com. Is that the best place for anyone who's interested in what you do to connect with you?
So the best way to connect would be to go to youridealsidehustle.com.
Okay.
There you're going to get the 1K blind spot assessment. 40 questions. It take you less than 10 minutes. and you are going to know the things that you're really good at, and you're going to know the blind spots that you may need to focus on to help you with what we were just talking about with the mindset and to take the steps forward to take the action when it comes to starting a side business, a side hustle.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, Bart, thank you so much for sharing your experience and inspiring people. Hopefully, there were a couple of people who are going to be listening who are thinking, oh, Bart's right. I've had this idea for a long time. There's no reason not to. Let's go make some more options for ourselves.
Don't die with it in you.
That's a good point. Well, thank you, Bart.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining me today. If something in this episode stirred something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Screenshot it and tag me, or DM me on the socials, send smoke signals, whatever works. I want to know what you're plotting. This show isn't just about listening. It's about building something real, together. So I hope to hear from you soon, and I'll be right here next week when you're ready to keep the rebellion going.